Hello, everyone. My name is Sierra. I am the founder and CEO of Workolution Inc., which is the home of CageBird HR and Work Receipts. So, for those of you who don't know, CageBird provides employees access to independent HR support across the country, and Work Receipts is our technology product that enables employees to document things that happen at work and connect to services in real time. At CageBird HR, we believe that employee advocacy is about more than helping people navigate workplace challenges, but it's about understanding the broader systems that influence people's ability to work, build wealth, stay healthy, and create opportunities for themselves and their families. And that is why we are so excited to host tonight's conversation, because when we think about work, we often focus on what's happening inside the workplace: promotions, policies, performance, and pay. But the reality is that our work lives are shaped by so much more: the communities that we live in, the air that we breathe, and the policies that determine where industries are built, and the political decisions that affect us, and our opportunity to influence workers in profound ways. And tonight, we are going to explore those intersections. Our guest is KeShaun Pearson, the executive director of the Memphis Community Against Pollution, and nationally recognized advocate. Oh, and a nationally recognized advocate for environmental justice. Throughout his career, KeShaun has worked to ensure that communities disproportionately affected by environmental harm have a voice in the decisions that shape their futures. His work sits at the intersection of public health, economic opportunity, community organizing, and policy, making him uniquely positioned to help us understand why environmental justice is also a worker issue. We are not here to try to sway anybody politically or to, tell you to vote one way or the other. But tonight we want to help us better understand how the systems around us influence our workplaces, careers, communities, and what it means to advocate for workers in a more holistic way. We'll spend an hour together and we will try, because Keyshawn and I have established we are certified yappers. So we will try to leave time for audience questions. And so if something comes to mind, please feel free to drop it in the chat. I will be monitoring it throughout the night. Keyshawn, thank you
What's
so much
up?
for being here.
Thank
I'm
you
a
so much for
fan.
having me.
No, thank you, because there's so much going on with your brother running, Elon Musk is in town. It's just you have a lot going on, and so we are so honored that you are here spending time with us tonight. And
Thank
so
you,
to
thank you,
jump
thank
in,
you.
yeah, no worries. And so to jump in, I want to start off by just setting the foundation and help people understand what do we mean when we talk about environmental justice, because the earth has been heating up for a long time. And
Mhm.
climate justice has been kind of like the brand name under which people have been doing this work. But I just want to help people understand, what do we mean when we say environmental justice?
So I think that's a great distinction and a great place to start. I'll start with my own journey
Yeah.
because I personally couldn't say that I knew that environmental and justice came together to form anything. But in this work, I started with my family and my community fighting against the Byhalia Connection pipeline in Memphis, Tennessee. And that's really where was the first time I even heard environmental justice together. And so, environmental justice to me, truthfully, has been a journey of learning how historically Black families specifically have been targeted for and regulated to places where industrial pollution is proliferating, and it has had a growing connection to so much of the disparities that we see and the negative health impacts. And so for me, it has been environmental justice means the way that the built environment and the human influence world impacts the people who live there. And environmental injustice is what happens when that's done incorrectly, when that's done wrong, when that does not include the necessary voices in determining where projects should go, what type of projects should even exist, and then who bears the burden of or the brunt of the body burden that comes with these projects. And so environmental justice is when you do it the right way. Environmental injustice is
Injustice.
when you do it the wrong way.
That's a good point. And I think when we talk about the intersection of environmental justice and just life, right? I think we don't give enough emphasis to the fact that, like, if you can't afford energy, right? Like, you can't cool or heat your home, which means you're probably not getting enough sleep, which means you're probably going to work fatigued, right? Which means you are
That's right.
probably putting yourself in unsafe situations, especially for people who work in manufacturing environments. When the earth is so hot, I mean, this summer we have seen records breaking heat all across not only this country but in the world. Okay, over in Europe, they're like, "What is going on? Why is it 100 degrees?" And I think when we talk about the rising temperatures and greenhouse gas emissions, so on and so forth, we have to help people understand that what's going on in Memphis also impacts you. And
That's
what's
right.
going on in with the data centers being put in Utah, it also impacts you. So I want to ask you, how do we connect environmental justice to the world of work in ways that make help people understand that this is a very serious issue that one way or another at one point in time or another will impact or has already impacted us all.
That's right. So, and thank you for the question because unfortunately, I
Mhm.
do believe that we are in an era where it is very easy to see how interconnected injustice is. And I say that is unfortunate because it relies on the death and displacement of
Mhm.
marginalized families first. When we look at what is happening in the global south, when we look at the migrations that are happening out of Florida, New Orleans, and Louisiana, other places in Louisiana, where there's so much climate migration happening, we can directly see we are all suffering from climate change. There is no one who is exempt. There is no place on the planet where they have not experienced some relative change due to the increase in our climate over time. And that has been accompanied with death, right? And so when we think about the increased climate and how it is skyrocketing, whether you're talking about Phoenix, Arizona, or you're talking about Europe, people have perished because of these changes. And so it is clear to understand and see that this type of behavior and this type of outcome had not been the norm
Yeah.
prior to the exacerbation that we're seeing with these temperatures and with the climate. When I think about work and workforce and how to really make that make sense, the environment is a shared experience.
Yeah.
There is no one who's going to work and is being instantly transported over to Mars and instantly transported back to Earth after work, right? That is not happening.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
working in a specific environment, and so the toxins that are in that area, right, for those 8 hours you're breathing them in, or you're ingesting them if you're drinking water, potable water from those sources. And so we're all being subjected to whatever environment it is that we're working in. And what environmental injustice has shown us is that the people who are in places where they are not being considered, where their health is not being truthfully taken care of, those folks are spending 8 or more hours a day in a place that is degrading their body and degrading the environment itself all at the same time.
Yeah. And I think for me, it's like for who and for what. It's like we are asking people to make these negotiations with their livelihoods, right? It's like you need to earn money, but you are also going into unsafe working conditions where you're on this assembly line or you're out in the sun all day or you are, they done plop the data center in your backyard. So you're hearing the humming all night or the gases that are
Mm,
being released. And it's this negotiation, and especially in Black and minority communities, that we are constantly having to wrestle with. And I don't think that is right, just, or fair, right?
that's
and
right.
and also I think when we talk about this intersection with technology, we have to grapple with the fact that AI is here. It is likely not going to go anywhere. Now, do I believe the dreams that the Silicon Valley boys are trying to sell around is going to take over everything? No. I personally believe that it's going to be more so like the internet boom, where jobs will go over time, new jobs will be created, and the economy will level out, and the internet will just become a tool. Right? That's my vision
That's
and
a
how
that's
I think it's going to go. Right? I think people are overselling what AI can do for their own financial gain.
one
Uh,
thousand percent.
but I do want to ask you about this negotiation that we're being asked to make as
Mm,
Black people around being a part of this technological wave, where I do agree that a lot of wealth will be created, but again, for whom? Right? But then also having to digest the fact that the data center that my technology is being run through is in a Black grandma's backyard.
come on, come on.
And
So,
so
how much time you got? Okay,
we, we, we,
because
we
right
got
here, I
45
can stay
minutes
right
left.
here the whole time. Because I mean, and I appreciate you bringing in the word and the framing of morality, right?
Yeah.
When I think about what has not served Black people is the sheer lack of morality of industrial quote unquote titans, right? When you
Mm,
look at rock from the Rockefellers, when you look at from the folks who own the plantations, and you look at even industry built around manufacturing and cars, these people exploited millions for their benefit. What big tech is doing right now isn't new, right? I forget the Black woman who said it, but there are no new sons, just other sons, right? Like there ain't nothing new under the sun,
it's done.
right? And so what we are seeing is just a regurgitation of a playbook that has already existed. Big oil has been doing the same thing since its inception, right? It is they pay off people, which include politicians and unelected officials who have quote unquote influence, and who ends up bearing the burden is Black people.
Yeah.
Just recently, so I'll start recently and we can go backwards. So recently, I worked with Taylor out of PG County up in Maryland,
Mm,
and they are resisting beautifully the expansion of hyperscale data centers in their community because, again, one, this is very speculative, and there is no regulation in place currently that protects communities long term, whether we look at health or we look at the economics, right? Regulate it just does not exist. That's another tangent. Because I mean, if we being honest about technology and regulation, we still haven't adequately been able to evaluate or be able to institutionalize internet culture, let alone
yeah.
social media culture, let alone AI culture and its implications. And we are still behind the curve in building the necessary legislation that would protect people and the necessary laws. I mean, and I'm talking about like just chat room stuff that isn't
Yeah.
being addressed adequately. And so entering into a new era of this nature and allowing it to be so operational and so expansive has been one of the most irresponsible things that I've ever seen in the free market. Going back to resistance and how we have to negotiate. Their resistance in PG County is spectacular. They've been fighting against this data center project for over a year, has succeeded in getting a moratorium. So I'm so thankful to God and I'm happy about that. But
Mhm.
in the most recent meetings there, truckloads of Black people have been showing up with the same t-shirts, the same hats, and they are being pro the data center,
KeShaun, don't be
right? When
fake.
organically the community has come against the data center, but then you have these paid folks who are showing up to be pro data center and they're getting paid, right? And these are not folks who make $100,000 a year. These are not folks who make 80,000, 70, right? These are low income families
Vulnerable people.
and folks who are being paid to support something that's not in their best interest, right? And unfortunately, that's not unique, right? We continue to be placed in positions where our oppression is weaponized against us to
Yeah.
support industry that will hurt the majority of us, right? And we could talk about the lack of parallel systems that could actually undergird and protect our community from this, where we have a caring and beloved community where we say, okay, you don't have X, Y, and Z. We created a network to catch those folks, but we haven't. That
No.
infrastructure doesn't exist yet, right?
Yeah.
Do I think we need to be building it? Yes, and we need
Yeah.
to be building it fast, and we need to be building it in community. And there's a lot to work around with that. But Black people continue to be in this position of negotiation. The environmental justice movement, as stated by the Environmental Protection Agency, started in Memphis with the sanitation worker strike, where Dr. King came to Memphis to march with the most marginalized people on the planet, garbage workers, right? The people who take out the trash. Two sanitation workers had been killed because of the technology, right? That was inadequate, and the pay that was inadequate. And so when we look at environmental justice and we look at what happened in Memphis, again, people were in a place where they had to negotiate their worth. And what happened was what we continue to see now. People stood up, and they stood up against the status quo that said we were not valuable enough to have an environment that was safe, that we weren't valuable enough to be paid a living wage or a wage that would allow us the experience that we know we deserve. And so for me, I continue to see both. I continue to see the extractive nature and the exploitation of our people. And then I also see that we are part of a long legacy, a long line of folks who have resisted since Bacon's Rebellion all the way till today, where people all across the South, all roads leads to the South, or you can name so many other movements throughout
Yeah.
Louisiana, throughout Florida, all throughout the South. People are saying no to data centers, and people
Yeah.
are winning, right? I was just in DeKalb County, and they have a moratorium that they're looking to extend until December. And so
New
where there
York just
is
passed one as
this,
well.
and New York just passed
New
one as
York
a
just passed one.
state, right?
A state one. Yep.
Maine passed
Yep.
one. And so we are seeing the results of resistance. And so where we see exploitation, we have to meet the moment with a opposite, more powerful force of resistance.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful to be a part of that movement. And I know that work is going to continue.
We need an offering plate.
Hey,
I have
man.
so many notes. So I have so many thoughts, like just the things I'm sitting in here like writing little keywords. I can come back to it. I first want to touch on regulation or the lack
Mm,
thereof,
that's right.
and how reckless it has. I don't even know if the right word is has become or continues to be. I
Hmm.
think about all those years ago when they drug Mark Zuckerberg to Congress and they was trying to question him about all this stuff, and one of the congressmen looked him square in the eye and says, how does Facebook make money? And I knew then
Hmm.
we do not have a government that can keep up with the rate, pace, and technological know-how to even be able to adequately govern
That's right.
these technologies. And
That's
I
right.
say off the hip all the time, this is the United States of Mark Zuckerberg. Because
Hello? Well, if we gotta
because
be
he's the
honest, this is the
arbiter.
United States of Black women, okay? Built this
Okay,
country, maintains the movements, right?
okay.
Black keep the culture going forward and continue to protect everybody while being the least protected. So that I can't give him that. I can't give him that. Now I
Yes,
will say
yes, yes. The 92% do control the world.
that's right.
However, in
That's right.
terms of like First Amendment, right?
That's right.
Mark Zuckerberg pretty much determines what is appropriate and what is not. He defines harm, what is harmful and what is not, right?
That's
And
right.
I believe that our lack of regulation or just around Mark Zuckerberg, right? As far as the FTE deciding not to go after him for basically buying every competitor, right, and creating this super app, if you will, right, to just not
100%.
understanding how technology works and how big it can become to the point now where we are talking about people meddling in elections via technology. And so when you take a step back on and just look at that history of recklessness from the government, it's like no wonder
That's right.
why we don't have any regulations with artificial intelligence, data centers, so on and so forth. And this is coming from somebody who owns a company that uses artificial intelligence.
And let's just get started. Let me just dive in here and say what we are seeing is a different velocity, right?
Yes.
We have
Yes.
not seen a product this speculative move forward this fast and expand in this way this quickly.
Correct.
XAI has only been in Memphis for 2 years. They have purchased over 500 acres of land. They own three 1 million square foot buildings. They have operated up to 80 methane gas turbines at once without a single
Regular.
EPA level permit that abides by the Clean Air Act. We have not seen extraction and exploitation of our environment or our resources this quickly ever and this expansively. It's everywhere all at once. What I believe about the way that regulation has failed us is our overly geriatric governing across the country, right? And I just mean that. I mean that's the truth, right? Yeah, these folks are elders who are standing and sitting in place versus raising up the next generation. And we cannot continue to rely on the energy of a generation who just does not have
Have
it,
it. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The necessity for ingesting new information, being able to really build frameworks, right? All of this takes energy, it takes know-how, and everyone needs a team, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't want to devalue our governance to the mythology that these individuals are so prolific that they're coming up with this legislation. That's not reality. All of these folks have teams, and these teams of very educated, very well um, trained individuals help to inform these folks. But when it comes to having the necessary malleability, the necessary risk that where you're not so risk averse to challenge
Yes.
billionaires, right? That requires that has been proven to require a younger mindset, right? And a younger
Yeah.
in a younger person usually, right? Not saying that it is not possible for an older person. Bernie Sanders has done an incredible job fighting for a moratorium at the federal level alongside Congresswoman AOC. And so, still to that end, right? We need more energy. We need younger voices. We need younger people to be involved. And I do believe there is a direct connection between younger people not seeing themselves in their governing body
Yeah.
and their lack of engagement in voting.
Yeah.
If you don't see yourself represented, I know that that has somewhat of an effect. And I'm sure there's somebody who can substantiate that claim for me. And if you can, please do in the comments.
No, I
But
mean we have to look no further than New York City
that's
and
hello.
Zohran Mamdani.
That's right.
I mean that's why they hate him.
That's right. That's right.
And you know, he's
And
34 years old. He's my age,
that's
going up against the establishment
he
Democrats.
younger than me.
He's
That's
going
right.
up against establishment
That's right.
Democrats
That's
and
right.
standing 10 toes on it. And so I do think that that what you're saying has a lot of credence and credibility, that, you know, the elders have paved the way. But at some point we have to understand that maybe it's time for you to play an advisor role,
That's right.
and not to discredit all the wisdom.
That's right.
But you know, Zoran Mamdani, I think he ran a 24/7 campaign. I mean, the man was everywhere. And that is the energy, like he said, that is required to really get momentum, to bring people into the movement, and to
That's
help them
right.
understand that this is not your granddaddy fight. Bernie
Mm-mm.
Sanders is going to cross over the Rainbow Bridge here, you know, in the next
Hello?
decade or so. It
And
happens to us all.
and truthfully, and that's what we should be looking forward to, right? And we have built a culture around perpetual youth versus building a culture around matriculation.
Yeah.
And when you think about a culture of matriculation, succession is built in,
Yeah.
right? I'm always thinking about who is going to replace
Who's
me.
the
The
next?
amount of energy that it takes to keep up with my younger brother, Representative Justin J. Pearson, in this run for Congress is incredible. I'm
Incredible.
just he actually I'm like sometimes I'm just like I don't know how you do it. And everybody people are
Yeah.
like, "KeShaun, I don't know how you do it." No, I don't understand how my brother does it. I mean, he has even more of a lineup of events than I do, and truthfully it leaning on the everlasting arm, amen,
Okay.
is what's keeping us going. But
Amen.
there is something to having and just being a little bit younger and also seeking wise counsel, right?
Yes.
And so often wise counsel is out of place. They are not in the place of support, they are in the place of competition. And when in that imbalance, we are in a place where the folks who are doing what Mark Zuckerberg has done in creating these super companies and these super
Yeah.
monopolies, they are able to exploit the fact that we are up against younger, motivated folks who could use some advice. And we are up against older folks who refuse to
Use
allow new information and new ideas. And so that has allowed for Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos,
to just run
Mark
off because we're
Zuckerberg,
so
the
distracted.
Google, Alphabet, all of these folks
Yes.
to consolidate power around the shape of the experience of our entire world. These people have shaped education.
Yes.
These folks have shaped the workforce. You had an entire two generations of people being taught and raised in the idea or the concept that technologists and folks who are working in specific fields are better than other people, have more dignity than other people, are more intelligent than other people, right? It is this evolution of eugenics that's pushed forward by these
Yeah.
corporate entities, and who benefited? Elon Musk,
This exactly.
Facebook, all of them benefited from building an entire society around their product, right? They built education around it, they built our entire framework around it, and even the devices that we are using at this exact moment. Now, what if it was a mathematician or a scientist or astronomer, and those folks had the ability to shape where our education was going and had the ability to shape what products we invested in? Like, this was never inevitable.
Right.
I think we get to a place when we think about humanity and its relationship to technology, that technology was the most important piece, and it was always humans. We
And
have
also,
always been the most important piece of the project.
yes. And I think one of the things I talk to my friends about all the time is that San Francisco and the tech bros, they spend a lot of time, energy, money, wherewithal trying to convince everyone else that the future is already determined, that we don't have a say in it. It's already done. They are these gods that have decided this is how it's going to work. This is the way it's going to be, and we should all just shut up and go along with it.
That's
And I
right.
think if we buy into that, then we kind of get the world that we're in now, right? Where,
Yep.
like you said, they've determined how we communicate. I mean, even the way that we interact, the concept of community is far fetched.
Come on.
Like, we ain't nobody on the grill no more, ain't nobody playing spades no more. And it's
Come
just like
on.
these people have convinced the world
Hmm.
that they are the best and the brightest. When in reality, Mark Zuckerberg, if he didn't have super shares, he would have been kicked
Come
out
on. Come
of
on.
because what do you mean? Mark Zuckerberg tried to convince us that the whole world was going to go into a virtual reality world called the metaverse. And $36 billion
Mind you, that was just 6 years ago.
yes.
It was not that long ago.
No.
It was not that long ago,
And fast
right?
forward,
And
36 billion is just a line item. And so I just try to help people to understand that you have a say in the future. The future has not been decided. The future is up for grabs. And we all have to have a voice and a positionality and participate in the creation of that future. And part of the work that we do here is help people understand that you need to take your ass down to that city council meeting.
that's right.
You need to understand who is making decisions about what education is being taught to your children and where your tax dollars are going locally. Because when the data center people come to town, who do you think is going to be making them votes? And so much of the time, I swear, I go to these meetings and I just listen sometimes.
Mm,
And I see and hear these people who do not look like me
mm,
advocating hard for the things that they want in their community.
mhm,
Even when I swear I went to my high school here, it went like when I left, it became like an elementary school, and then it became a high school, and then it became something else. Anyways, they're trying to make it back into a high school. And I
okay.
went to the meeting, and the meeting was just about getting community input around should we bring this thing back into a high school, so on and so forth. The
Hmm.
majority of the meeting was people whose kids went to other schools who, if this high school was to become a high school, then their kid would have to switch schools, and they were coming to talk about their kid having to switch schools, and that's why they didn't want my old high school to be a high school again. Not the point of the meeting at all. But this is the
Mm,
seriousness by which other communities take local
that's right.
political engagement because they understand that yes, the fight at the federal level is crazy right now. But that craziness
That's
has
right.
put a lot of downward pressure and visibility on local and state politics. And so we just try to help people understand, like, baby, you got to be paying attention. Now is not the time to be distracted. And no shade, no tea, but our community, we like to be on the internet talking about nothing a lot. We like to be on here arguing about $200 dates and 50-50.
Yeah.
And the whole time, homeboy trying to come put a data center in your backyard. And I also, when you said earlier, you said about debt and displacement. I don't think we talk enough about the fact that if these people come put a data center in your backyard, your value of your home is gone.
So, all right.
not
So
us
let
taking,
me jump in.
not us taking notes, going back and forth.
Look, I'm like, hold on. I'm like, yo, you are cooking. You are cooking. Okay. So I got it. You talked about a lot of stuff that's like very important that we cover too, because civic engagement is a privilege at the
Yeah.
moment.
Yes.
One thing that I want to be extremely vocal about and extremely clear about is that time poverty is the largest tool of
Yeah.
isolation and oppression that continues to plague our communities at large by
Mm.
the use of this plantation style workforce that has been used to build the nascent economy that we do exist in today. What America was founded on continues to be what drives the capitalistic environment of the world.
Mhm.
Black people, black families built the economy that the world exists on now.
Yeah.
What has happened is that more folks have been recruited for the lowest level of work. When you see the wages of CEOs being thousands of times higher than its lowest paid employee, when you see multi-trillion dollar valued companies paying nothing in taxes, when you pay attention to who is winning,
Yeah.
that is coming at the cost of the 99%, right? And more often it's coming at the cost of the lowest 25%. And the value of what people participate and what they give to the society and to this world is literally equal. But what people are being able to hold on to and to keep for themselves, that disparity continues to grow and that disparity continues to widen. And so when we think about civic engagement, that is the role of
Mhm.
government.
Yeah.
Government is the balancing of the scales,
Yeah.
right? And so, and you said something that's very important. When we think about our engagement and how to be engaged and why to be engaged, the first thing it starts with is your mind. Young philosopher said, "The revolution will not be televised." It
Mhm.
will not be televised because the revolution starts in your thinking first,
Mhm.
right? What I want us to also realize when it comes to these conversations about 50-50, when it comes to a lot of these CIA-esque conversations within the black
Yes.
community, right? They are spreading like crack
Yes.
cocaine
Yeah.
and truthfully operating in a way that supports the dissection of black community versus the connection of it.
Yeah.
It is rooted in a reality where people are being handed a specific type of imagination. And so if we are to build something different, we got to first imagine it. And so it's two folks, Ursula, and I apologize to the author. I do not know her last name, but she released a book in 2004, and one of the quotes in the book states that having an imagination at this particular time in history is one of the most powerful things you can do,
Mm.
right? It's the most powerful weapon you have. And Walter Brueggemann argues that we should not be looking at what we could implement if we don't first have the core imagination to the world we want to build. So
Mm.
often we talk about, oh, I need this, we need this before we move forward, this has to happen. But have you truthfully imagined it?
Yeah.
Settled in it, right? And really felt like what is it like for black people to have all their needs met? What is it like for what would that world feel like? And so to that end, having that imaginative capacity first
Yeah.
is what I believe sustains us, what continues to motivate us day in and day out. And so I believe we have to start there and either simultaneously or immediately after move into to civic engagement. There's
Mhm.
a, and my faith is Christianity. It's a scripture that says, "Look, pray, but move your feet." Okay,
Okay.
pray,
Right.
but and move your feet. Okay, don't just get caught up praying. You got to also be active. Faith without works
Is this?
is not alive. Okay, I can tell you that. Um, no disrespect to Mitch McConnell. Um, but civic engagement, civic
Okay.
engagement though, civic engagement is extremely important when we think about how to balance the scales, right?
Yes.
And like I mentioned, parallel systems before, and parallel systems, they are extremely important as it pertains to creating a safety net. But when we talk about reparations at scale, when we talk about legislation that impacts folks all across the country, all across the world, at scale, we have to look at how do we influence civics? How do we influence legislation from the local to the state to the federal level? That is what allows for so much transformation because we saw it, right? We saw the birth of it through the legislation that the Biden administration put forward that paved the way for so many clean energy projects and so many jobs, Department of Energy expanding, only for it to be snatched away, right? Only for it to be snatched away in a new administration. And so we have to get involved. It's not optional. If
Yeah.
you care about a paycheck, if you care about the dignity of work, if you care about the future of humanity, it is your responsibility to be engaged. And my brother talks about it, and I continue to preach it. Go knock on some doors. It is it
That's
is the
right.
most life-changing thing you can probably do.
Yeah.
Is meet people where they are and talk to them about why they are interested in voting or disinterested, right? Talk to them about your candidate of choice and why they should come out and vote for them. It is a transformative experience that I believe everyone should be a part of. But make the phone calls, sign up, and make the sacrifice if you can.
Yeah.
If you have the PTO, if you have the space, I know we're all strapped for time, but
Yeah.
if you can make that sacrifice one weekend a month, right? If you can write that email, if you can write a letter, if you can just pick up the phone, make a call. You might not get the representative, you might get the staff. You might not get the staff, you might get the voicemail, but do something.
And I think going door to
Everybody has to
door,
do something.
and I think going door to door, one thing that I talk about all the time is like we are trying to fight these algorithms, right? As
Hmm.
far as fighting misinformation. And I
That's
always say
right.
Facebook is a new Fox News, okay? And so
Amen.
you have to you have to be able to connect with people in real life to disconnect them from this 12, and people are spending 8, 9, 10, 12 hours a day on these social media networks, okay, just being fed propaganda, right? Digital propaganda and fake news and fake articles, right? And so I do believe that being engaged, not just on the computer, right? It's a internet activism. Like, baby, you're gonna have to put your boots on, okay? You can't fight this from the house. And I understand that right now Black people are on rest because of what happened in the election and all that stuff. But I do think that we are getting to a tipping point in this country, which will probably come to a head in November during the elections, of what are we actually willing to accept, right? As
Hmm.
elections are allegedly being stolen and preparing to be stolen, and so on and so forth. Another thing that I wanted to go back to was the ways in which the state keeps Black people in persistent poverty by way of eminent domain, by way of land degradation,
That's
by
right.
way of forcing these projects specifically into communities in which they know there are vulnerable people whose entire life savings. I mean, us Black folk, I don't know about you, but my daddy didn't, even my grandmother did not invest in the stock market. Now, it was a different time. There was different avenues of wealth, right? You had pensions and everything else. So investing in the
Hmm.
stock market was optional, right? But now pensions are no more. And so, you know, as the tall tale goes, if you want to, create some wealth for yourself, you have to invest in the stock market. But even still, in our community, we want something that we can touch, right? We want to reach out and touch that wealth. Okay. We want to know, is money in them 2x4s. Okay. We don't know what's going on with the stock market. But I want to just get your opinion on the ways that the state takes from our communities by way of this environmental injustice and the impact that it has on us financially and economically.
Listen, how much time we got? Okay.
We got
Um,
10 minutes. We got 10 minutes.
so
If somebody has a
let me,
question, please put it in the chat because we could do this
yeah,
forever.
because listen, I can listen. I can stay. Okay, we can keep going. But what I'll start with this. Black families were not allowed to build wealth or participate in the wealth building process that took place in America before uh, the Reconstruction, right? And so when we talk about who could vote, white men, who could own land, white men, what families got discounts for farmland and to purchase their homes, what it was white families, right? And so that disparity continues to exist today. And for every the accumulation of wealth of a white home is over $200,000, right? Where the average wealth of black families is around $100. You got 100 versus 200,000. I mean, the disparity is incredulous, and it is continuing to widen. Black families were regulated to red line communities where you also saw coupled with industrial zoning. And so the the quote unquote wealth building we had were in the places nobody else wanted to go. And
Yeah.
so as we continue to grow our communities and our families, what we realize is that the body burden we carry, because epigenetically we have more of the health issues that because we continue to experience and live in these places where we have this acute exposure to toxic chemicals like formaldehyde, nitrogen dioxide, because of the factories. And this is also how we are accumulating wealth,
Yeah.
right? And so we're having to live in this balance. But what it also is a trap, right? Because you can accumulate wealth, but you have to live here. And what does it mean to live here? I'll give you a perfect example. Southwest Memphis. The families who live here have been there for generations. The homes are owned by our ancestors, our grandmothers, and majority are our elders in their 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s,
Yeah.
right? These are the homeowners that are still there, but there is no grocery store, right? There are 17 gas stations on one road. We are encircled by polluters from XAI to Valero Oil Refinery. There was Sterilization Services of Tennessee who was putting out ethylene oxide, a known carcinogen, at levels far beyond the EPA standard. And then the EPA doubled back and said, "Oh, actually, it's more carcin. It causes cancer at a rate higher than we thought." And so the community who has been there for over 50 years, everyone on the street has cancer. The life expectancy in this community is the lowest in all the state. We are dying. We are being,
Yeah.
truthfully, we are contracting so many different cancers and ailments because of where we live. And what does that do? That affects the amount of years you can work. And so economically, you're losing value there because of the proliferation of these toxic fumes and these toxic release inventory facilities. In 38109 alone, we have 17, right? Your zip code continues in this country to establish just who you will be and how your life will play itself out, whether it's education, economic mobility, or otherwise, or your health. Where you started determines largely how your life will end up. For me personally, because I grew up and was born and raised in 38109, I will live 10 years shorter than the average American. That is my reality. Is that there's a
Don't say
decade
that.
of that based on the numbers, right? This is based on the statistics,
Yeah.
right? But again, being an anomaly, right? Because my parents had me at 15 and 16 years old. They are now Dr. Kimberly Owens Pearson and Reverend Jason C. Pearson with a master's in divinity from Howard University, right?
Wonderful.
They are the exception,
Yeah.
right? My family is an exception. They had 5 kids by the time they were 25 years old. right? And they made the necessary sacrifices in order to build a experience and a life. Now, again, we grew up in abject poverty, but on the other side, my brother is state representative, right? We built an environmental justice organization that has been able to affect national and global change from right here in
Yeah.
Southwest Memphis, right? And so anomalies exist, but what we have to do is move away from the glorification of the anomaly and look at why isn't that the same for everybody? Why doesn't everybody have those same chances? And why doesn't everybody have that ability to have and live a life where they aren't stricken by time poverty in a way that shackles them
Yeah.
to an experience where they are dying earlier and unable to
Yeah.
earn as much as they should, right? Because the education levels and the crime levels, they are altered by places that have increased pollution. It's
Yeah.
not rocket science that the most polluted areas have the highest crime, have the lowest level of educational attainment. It's not rocket science, right? These are inevitabilities
Yeah.
because if we pay attention to um, it's going to come to me, um, the something something of what is it called, y'all? Social determinants
Mm.
of health. The
Yes.
social determinants of
Yes.
health. Your environment plays direct
Yes.
relationship is in direct relationship to your outcomes as it pertains to economics and education attainment. And so all of this is connected. All
Yeah.
of this we have to be concerned with. And if you are an employee of one of these companies, your health is also compromised.
Yeah.
You are also part of this community. You're here for more than 8 hours a day,
Yeah.
right? And so that's what I continue to try to elevate and get folks to understand is that these are not separate from your experience because you work there and you go home somewhere else. This is also a part of your lived experience. And so we have to be interconnected in our struggle together.
Yeah.
Just because they pay you don't mean you should not ask for more. You should not ask for better. And sometimes asking for better is saying this data center actually should not be here. Sometimes ask and I'm an employee and I can and you can say
Yeah.
that, right? Sometimes it's saying we are using fossil fuels at a rate that is unsustainable for our planet and it is killing the community next door. How do we move toward clean energy and make a just transition? Sometimes it is asking those questions. It is not just about how can I continue to climb the corporate ladder or how can I make more money? How can I challenge my company to do better? And so we are not in a struggle against one another, right? That's what they want us to believe is that there is an intra-class issue. This isn't. It's not an intra-class issue because
Yeah.
that only serves the people at the top.
Yeah.
What we are in is a battle of an idea that there is more dignified work that looks more
Yeah.
white, that sounds more white, that has a suit on, that is rooted in exploitation, right? That there's more dignity in that work, and so they deserve better. And what we have seen, what we continue to experience, is that only puts everybody else at a disadvantage. That
Yeah.
only serves to destroy our planet.
Yeah. That we
That's all
all
it
share.
does.
Yeah. That we all share. This reminds me of a I'm in the great state of North Carolina. This is a hog state and barbecue,
There
right?
we
And
go.
there's a documentary about how the hog farmers are literally spraying feces from because they wash out the pig pen and it goes into this big swamp
Mm.
thing and they spray that as manure, but wind and everything else literally takes it into the neighboring community to the point where these people cannot leave their homes for extended periods of time. Their children are outside literally getting hog shit sprayed upon them. Everybody on in the county got some type of cancer. And so when you say ain't nothing new under the sun, this is just the
Mm.
next generation of that. It was hog shit
This is-
yesterday. It's data centers today. It's
My
awful.
bad.
No, it's awful.
That one makes me emotional because I watched a scene, um and it was a guy, an older gentleman. He said, I went outside for church, and they sprayed, and I had to go and change my clothes. And I just that is so humiliating
Yeah, it
to
is.
have your actual life experience be so altered by people who don't even know you exist. This same
You
person
know
had
why?
lost multiple people to cancer,
Yes. It's
right?
the
And it's just like
demonization.
that.
And I believe a lot of it is intentional. I think it's psychological warfare. I think that's certainly part of it. Because
Well,
what people are saying is what is the value of a life?
that's exactly it. That's exactly it,
It's
right?
disgusting.
What is the value? And overwhelmingly, we are seeing the value of life being diminished to the
Yes.
point where and Mustafa Santiago Ali was the first person I heard say this phrase, but sacrifice zones.
Yeah.
Um, we have large communities and specifically large black, brown, and marginalized folks who live in sacrifice zones where industry is able to treat you as if you don't exist and don't matter.
Yeah.
Whether it is the farms that are spraying, this disgusting stuff into our atmosphere, or it's the methane gas turbines being operated for Grok and Claude and all of these other systems. People are paying the cost
Yes.
for
Yes.
industry. It
Yep.
has an actual human cost to it. And so, that is where I feel as a culture, as a country, as a people, we have to be very intentional about what our next steps are, because they have to be unifying. They have to be
Mhm.
rooted in care, consideration, and building the necessary infrastructure, whether that is through government or through parallel systems similar to what the Black Panthers have done to care for one another. Because otherwise, we will divulge into the reality that Elon Musk wants us to see, that Mark Zuckerberg wants us to believe in, and we are seeing it take shape. But what gives me hope is the fact that we are also seeing people start to be more in tune with our power in a way that we are
Yeah.
co-creating. Because if it had not been for people holding on to their power, then the data centers would be up everywhere. If
Yeah.
it had not been for people holding on to their power, then none of the data center projects would be stopped or stalled. If it had not been for people believing in the co-creation of our future, then we would already be living in a dystopian reality where everyone is surveilling everyone else. And so because we are not there, that means there's another way, right?
Yes.
There's another way forward, and we're finding our way to it. We're building our way to it. We're reading, writing, and we're having webinars on our way to it.
Yes.
And so that's a reason to hope. That's a reason to keep fighting. That's a reason not to give up, and that's a reason to stay connected. So I know we over time, but I thank you so
Yes.
much for this
I
conversation.
We could do this all night, y'all. I don't even know how we got to an hour, but thank you so much for everybody for coming. So sorry we did not get to questions, but I hope that this has been impactful. It has certainly given me a lot to think about as some of the things you're talking about. I was like, man, I haven't even thought about, there's 17 gas stations on one street. Like,
Mm.
so thank you all so much. I hope that you enjoyed it. And with that, I'm going to end the live.